Demetrius Mack, we'll call him Dan Dan, gets out of the driver's seat and he goes and he sits in the passenger of our victim's car. And there's a conversation. And in just a short period of time, see him jump out of the car with a bag in his hand that he didn't have in his hand when he sat down. When he jumps out of the car, you see that he drops his gun onto the ground. He picked his gun up, he starts to run. During this period of time, the victim has shot at our suspect number one, who is Dan Dan. He flees across the parking lot, and Dan Dan is shooting back over his shoulder at our victim. At this time, the 17-year-old Alfred Higgs starts shooting into the vehicle. Understand that Alfred Higgs at 17 is a student, but they're out of school this week, so hey, you're not going to school, why not get your gun, go rob a drug dealer? So Alfred Hicks starts shooting into the vehicle. He struck our victim in the neck and in the lower back and the buttocks area, instantly killing. And then he drives, picks up Dan Dan, they flee Walnut, which is the street just south of 7-Eleven. I want to first thank the 7-Eleven employees because the management there totally cooperative with us. And as a result, we were able to bring this case ultimately an end rather than later. Neither of these people are in custody at this time. If you know who they are, tell them to go ahead and turn themselves in. If they don't want to turn themselves, call Crime Stop, 1-800-226-TIP. You stay totally anonymous. We'll give you green cash. They go to jail. We'll even let them ride together in the same patrol car to jail because we have warrants for first-degree murder against both of them. And we also have robbery with a firearm warrant against them. Now, Alfred Higgs, he'll have to be dropped off at the Juvenile Assessment Center. But we're going to petition and ask our state attorney, Brian Haas, and his team to waive him over to an adult court because this is an adult crime. Quite frankly, Brian Haas and his homicide team are simply the very best. We're fortunate to have Brian as our state attorney. But our goal is to lock them up. But let me go back in history. I told you, and I've told you over and over and over, that people think that marijuana is this low-level, nonviolent crime. Well, if you knew the victim, wife, children, go ask them if they think the sale of marijuana is a low-level, nonviolent crime. It's their husband, their daddy, is dead trying to sell the drug. But let's talk about Alfred Higgs, the high school student, 17 years of age. As I go back in history, I have told all of you, you let kids get away with stuff just like at home. There's no discipline at home. They do what they want, when they want. Their conduct gets worse, worse, worse. The same thing with the criminal justice system. At only 17 years old, he has 7 previous felony charges against him and 6 misdemeanors at only 17. But listen to this. It started with an arrest in April of 17 when he was then, 14 years of age in Homestead, Florida. He was charged with trespassing, carrying a concealed weapon, and damage to property, criminal mischief. You know what they did with the charges? They dropped them all. They dropped them. And it says Higgs was charged with criminal mischief. Upon searching him, we found a loaded 9mm weapon. This was 3 years ago. when he was about 14 years old. They dropped all the charges. Did you hear me? So he thinks, hey, the criminal justice system didn't do anything to me for trespass and having this firearm. So let's jump to 19. In 19, February of 19, we charged him with possession of drug paraphernalia, possession of marijuana, and vehicle theft. That's felony, vehicle theft. They dropped the drug paraphernalia, and he's on juvenile probation or supervision for the vehicle theft and the possession of marijuana. Now that's in February. In October of 19, after getting probation and supervision, he's arrested in Osceola County for resisting law enforcement without violence, criminal attempt of solicitation, use of two-way communications to facilitate a felony. All of those were dropped. He's on probation already, juvenile supervision, and they're dropped. Oh, the trespassing adjudication was withheld. Carrying a concealed weapon, adjudication withheld. Vehicle theft, no action. While he's already in trouble in Polk County, they don't do anything to him. So why shouldn't Alfred Higgs think you can't murder somebody in a robbery? Everything he's done, he's gotten away with the exception of Polk County, where he got probation and he got supervision. So now he goes out and murders a 33-year-old Hispanic male who's selling marijuana. His buddy Dan, Demetrius Mack, is a suspect in a similar type robbery and shooting up in Lake County, but none of the victims will cooperate. Other than that, he has zero criminal history. Zero criminal history. So how do you go from zero criminal history to robbery with a firearm and murder, first-degree murder at 18 years of age? Well, you do that when you think the system doesn't care, when the system will let you get away with things. And that's easy for him to think. All he's got to do is talk to his buddy. He says, hey, brother, what happens when you get arrested a lot? Alfred says, they don't do anything. They let me do what I want to do. And they drop everything later on. Well, hey, then let's go all out and rip somebody off. Good idea. The system failed to hold him accountable. That's why he thinks it's okay to rip people off, to rob people with firearms, and now he's charged with first-degree murder. Family, friends, turn them in. Turn them in peacefully, because we need to bring them to justice. Let me tell you one thing. They've got firearms and they're dangerous. We're going to arrest them sooner rather than later. We're going to do the least amount of force necessary. We hope that's only putting a pair of handcuffs on them. But we're not taking it lightly when they're running around with guns and have already committed a murder. These are dangerous people. So at the end of the day, when I hear people talk about this criminal justice system that's too tough, understand that in the state of Florida, which is one of the tougher states, only about 4 people of every 100 that come in contact with the criminal justice system in a year go to prison for any period of time. And this system is already letting people like Alfred Hicks off over and over and over and over. How much more liberal can we get? How much more forgiving can we get? And now, if we'd have jerked the knot in him, put him on significant probation and programs, or sent him to juvenile programs when he did all these other things, maybe he wouldn't be facing the rest of his life in prison for a first-degree murder, and that's where he needs to be. he and Dan need to be in prison for the rest of their life because they murdered the husband of a good lady and took the father away from three very young children. And those three very young children needed their dad so he could raise them, I hope, the right way. Selling marijuana certainly isn't. But the victim's not without problem. If the victim had cared for his children and his wife like he should have, he shouldn't have been out selling marijuana. So is drug dealing, drug possession dangerous? It's physically dangerous if you're addicted to drugs. It's really dangerous if you get killed while selling or buying drugs. And it's dangerous for the people who do the shooting because they're going to prison for a very long time. Are there any questions? Oh, yes, there was. And what we saw in the vehicle and on the ground, and you'll see that when you see the video clip here, the suspect grabbed the bag of marijuana from the victim because marijuana is spread throughout the car, out through the parking lot, and down to where he got into the getaway vehicle. So he was dropping marijuana all through the parking lot. So yes, he may believe with the victim that he was going to buy the marijuana. He saw the marijuana. He snatched the marijuana. The victim shot. He shot. His buddy shot. And you'll see as we go through the video clip from the store how clear the shooting event is. Any other questions before we look? Sir? I don't know if there's a criminal record on the victim or not, but we can't release it, but we can say whether or not there was it. There is not. There's not a record on the victim. So the victim's never been arrested. This is normally what they do. They give them an intervention, which is okay on low-level stuff, but you never know. But look at this whole list of stuff here. 7 felonies, 6 misdemeanors, starting when he was 14-ish, 15 years old, to include possession of a firearm. The criminal justice system, wanting to be softer and gentler and kinder, encouraged his criminal behavior. And now he's facing first-degree murder, and we're going to prosecute him and do our best to lock him up in prison for the rest of his life. As he should be, by the way, before he kills someone else. Okay? Anything else? Let's look at the video clip. As you can see, they're both backed in together. This is Dan going to sit in the victim's car. And you see that Higgs is on the outside of the car by the driver. And they have conversation. And he goes back in, sat in the car in the driver's seat. See, he's getting ready to drive. He's going to drive the getaway car now. By the way, with a learner's permit. We do appreciate them when they do stupid stuff like drop their cell phone and their driver's license in the parking lot, by the way. And you can see the marijuana on the ground. Horrific, horrific event. Should have never happened. Should have never happened. Okay? If y'all will put that out and tell everyone that we need to find these two suspects and get them locked up sooner rather than later. They're dangerous. Don't think for a second that they're not, because you see when they get backed into a corner or their robbery doesn't go the way they want, they'll just murder at 17 and 18 years of age. Thank you very much.